Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Muhammad Faris Kaldia Syafi'i, program studi ilmu komunikasi Fakultas Humaniora, semester 7. Di sini saya akan membacakan buku Islamic Science, Paradigma, Fakta, dan Agenda. Saya akan membacakan bab di mana agenda sains Islam. Wawancaranya Paul Letik. Agenda sains Islam Paul Letik. Paul Letik adalah mantan guru besar di International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization atau disebut ISTAHC, Kuala Lumpur selama 9 tahun dari 1996 sampai 2005. Dan sebelumnya pernah selama 1 tahun dari 1992 sampai 1993 menjadi peneliti di Department of the History of Science, Oklahoma, Universitas Amerika Serikat, disponsori oleh lembaga swasta Rockefeller Foundation. Ia mendapatkan gelar PhD pada tahun 1973 dalam bidang fisika nuklir dan PhD kedua di tahun 1991 dalam bidang semitik dari Vrije University of Amsterdam, Netherlands. Sejumlah karya telah diterbitkan, di antaranya Aristotle's Basic and its Reception in the Arabic World dan Aristotle Methodology and its Reception in the Arab World. Namun dengan mengetahui sejarah, seorang akan memperoleh pemahaman yang telah lebih mendalam tentang apa sebenarnya sains itu, hakikat dan tujuannya. Ia juga akan mendapatkan gambaran yang jelas dan semakin memahami bagaimana orang pada zaman yang berbeda dan kultur yang berbeda ternyata bisa memiliki pandangan dan pendekatan yang berbeda dalam mempelajari alam ciptaan Tuhan. Kalau membaca dari internet, kita akan menemukan banyak pendapat tentang mengapa sains tidak berkembang pesat di dunia Islam semenjak abad ke-16 dan mengapa perkembangan sains semenjak itu justru terjadi di Eropa. Pada dasarnya dalam hal ini tidak ada satupun jawaban yang pasti untuk mempertanyakannya. Mengapa? Sejarah bukan alam fisik. Apa yang terjadi? Terjadi begitu saja? Bisa diprediksi atau dimanipulasi? Mungkin ada sebab-sebab tertentu. Yang positif maupun negatif berdampak pada kemajuan sains, sebagaimana dikemukakan oleh banyak sejarawan. Saya sendiri tidak meneliti dan saya sendiri tidak memiliki pendapat khusus soal ini. Saya mungkin lebih sepakat dengan pendapat Floris Cohen dalam bukunya How Modern Science Come into the World. Bagaimana sains modern muncul, terbitan tahun 2010. Yang mengatakan bahwa tidak terdapat alasan-alasan yang menghalangi kita untuk bertanya mengapa revolusi sains tidak terjadi di dunia Islam pada abad ke-11. Barangkali yang bisa menguraikan masalah ini lebih lanjut dalam kuliah yang akan saya sampaikan. Apakah tantangan mereka yang ingin meneliti sains Islam? Apa saran Anda untuk mereka? Masih banyak sekali karya-karya saintis muslim dalam bentuk manuskrip yang tersebar dan tersimpan di perpustakaan di seluruh dunia. baik perpustakaan universitas maupun lembaga-lembaga swasta dan milik pribadi. Tidak ada yang tahu persis berapa jumlah dan apa isinya. Maka tantangan kita kemudian adalah pertama, melacak keberadaan karya-karya tersebut, mendata dan mengedit serta menerbitkan. Setelah itu, meneliti dan menguraikan isinya, membandingkan dengan teks-teks sejenis dari periode sebelumnya maupun sesudahnya, menentukan hubungan atau keterkaitan di antaranya. Dari segi apa? Sejauh mana? Dan seterusnya. Untuk inilah diperlukan penguasaan bahasa Yunani, Greek, dan Latin. Di samping penguasaan bahasa Arab dan latar belakang pendidikan sains yang memadai, publikasi dalam bahasa Inggris akan memperluas cangkupan manfaat maupun dampak kepada masyarakat pembaca di tingkat nasional. Jika cukup banyak yang dikerjakan oleh mereka yang memiliki perangkat-perangkat linguistik dan saintifik tersebut. Walaupun Anda hanya menguasai bahasa Arab, banyak proyek bisa digarap dalam bidang ini. Terima kasih dan waktu dan kemurahan hati Anda, dengan senang hati juga. Selanjutnya, how are you? I'm fine and happy that I am invited by INSITS. I look forward to meeting the people from Jakarta and surrounding who are interested in the history of Islamic science. We are informed that you hold 2 PhDs, one in nuclear physics and second on the Semitic. What was the story behind your decision to study Semitic language? The career for someone who graduated in physics was often to teach in the secondary school. I attempted this for a few years, and in the meantime, during my holiday travel in North Africa, I become acquainted with Arabic culture, which quite appealed to me at the time, since I did not feel that I would like to be a lifelong teacher of physics. I changed direction and decided to study Arabic. I found it a niche language to study with an extensive, interesting literature. You spent 9 years at ISTEDS working as professor of history and philosophy of Islamic science. What exactly did you teach there, and what was the expected outcome of such interaction? I was invited to teach at ISTEDS because they know my publication on the histories of Islam science and philosophy. So that was the main subject I taught there. I was also asked to teach language, which supposedly is a course needed for any study, and ancient Greek and Latin. Apart from the fact that learning this language is an actually exercise and certification for any student, someone who wants to study an Arabic test on science, find it, search and compare it with earlier science tests, need to know Greek, and if wish to study the influence of the text on later development, he needs to know Latin. Many people dismiss Islamic science as something nostalgic that is suitable for school children. Yet there has been a growing interest and increasing effort by scholars to take Islamic science seriously. Can you explain the importance of such in the fall? In the fall, I do not know who their dismissive people are, but Arabic culture, including science, has been the subject of seriously study since the Renaissance, and in devoted and indeed nowadays there are quite a few interested around the world. They are devoted to history of Islamic science, such in Barcelona, New York, Yale, Oklahoma, Aleppo, Frankfurt. Many people are not interested in history, and of course, one can be a good scientist in one daily job without know anything about history. However, knowledge of history give one a deeper understanding of what science is and what is not, and it makes one more aware of the facts that people in different times and different culture may have had different approach the approach to the investigation of nature. When you look the interest, you will find numerous opinions on my science did not continue to flourish in the Islamic world science around 1500, and why the further major development occurred in Western Europe. The basic reaction on this that there is no definite answer on the why history is not nature. What happened just happened, but one might try to find factors that are either positive or negative for a certain development, and such factors have been added by various historians of science. I do not pretend to have an opinion of my own on this matter. I would agree with Cohen in book How Modern Science Come to the World, who, who say that there were no provision reason why what people usually call the Semitic reason were not apparent in the Islamic world, the country. Maybe I can love on this during my lecture. Lenz is first to discover this manuscription, to edit, print, and publish them, then to study the text to find by which previous text these works were influenced, and what was their influence on uh, are other work in their time and later times. For this knowledge of Greek and Latin might be needed. I translation into English word make the text available to a large public worldwide. Thus, there is much challenging work to do for a student who know Arabic, Greek, Latin, English, and maybe French and German as well. But still, if you just know Arabic well, much work lies before you. Thanks for attention. Good luck for you all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.